It's UAT Tech Tangents. I'm Robert Walker.
And I'm Dave Bolman.
We're talking all things crypto. And so, cryptocurrency, what started out as, this is going to be a new wave of how we interact with, finances, how we exchange currencies. And I think at first everyone was like, oh, whatever, this has something weird. And then the Bitcoin goes from being, a third of a penny to being $100,000.
Yes. Yeah.
Who could have predicted this?
No, not me, actually, by a mile. As I was interested in blockchain, and I thought the idea of crypto was interesting, but it was kind of interesting in sort of a Ready Player One kind of way, and I never thought it would take off. And what I didn't predict was the catalyst engine behind it, cryptocurrency, were investors who were just looking for the value to go up. They didn't want to use it for anything. They just wanted it as investment. And that's kind of unique because a lot of times when a new tech kicks in, there's some core group that gets it spurred. The ones who are actually willing to pay for it and use it to get it through its baby phases and get it from crawling to walking.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen with things like the cell phones and the Iridium satellites.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like the precursor to a cell phone was Iridium. It was really expensive. It had limitations. People thought it was a failure because it was so expensive, but there were people who absolutely, that was the only way you could solve that problem.
Yeah.
And so that work spawned what we now, ubiquitous cell phones. Crypto's at the first one. It's like, well, we didn't actually care about it as a way to spend money, but I think it's going to be worth more money down the road, so I'll buy it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been kind of interesting to watch. What's sort of, unusual about crypto right now is most folks have heard the term.
Yep.
And they have their heads wrapped around, it's like digital money, right?
Right.
But almost the percentage of people who actually use it is very, very small. Actually use it who aren't criminals, very, very, very small. And those who, own it is a bit up, but they only are doing it as an investment. And, but yet you're beginning to see this conversation of like, okay, well, what's the ultimate use of it?
Right.
And what it reminds me of is in the late 90s when tools like Napster started.
Yeah.
And it was like there was this idea out there, we want to solve this need of, we want access to more songs, and CDs can only hold so much, and things like that. We want all the songs. And so, Napster started, and there was its clones that were these sort of like, hey, look, you upload your music, you can now access the music, everybody gets all the music.
Yeah.
And it was ultimately an incredible invasion of IP, but it was, like Napster didn't really survive, but you did see Apple come in.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the legitimate version.
Mm-hmm.
I think crypto is going to wind up being that way, where, right now it's like there are these sort of independent coinages, and I don't think it's going to stay there. I think ultimately for most people, there will be forms of crypto that are government backed and are acknowledged and sanctioned.
Yeah.
I think, you're going to see the euro, the dollar, whatever, we'll have a crypto version that is, backed with the same kind of protections of the government.
Yeah.
And it's a trade-off, because what some folks, when they originally said, well, here's the beauty of crypto is that you don't need banks, you don't need government. Much the same way as Napster said, you don't, music is free, enjoy the music.
Yeah.
I think that it's an interesting ideal. However, most people who use currency, they want security, they want protection, they don't want, they want to mitigate their risk of the funds just going away.
Right.
They want to know what it is. And a lot of activity with currency is trading one currency against another.
Right.
So you need it to be backed. And so what I predict will happen with crypto is it will become part of our lives in some form, but it is probably going to move off the Bitcoins and Ethereums, and it's going to become something that feels more staid.
Yeah.
And that's what will move it beyond, not like Bitcoin will go away, but it'll be kind of a fringe thing.
Right. Right.
And the thing I would worry about if I was a Bitcoin investor is that at this point in time, you're investing in a concept that doesn't have a lot of use.
Yeah.
But what you're gaining your return on investment because someone's willing to pay more because they think it's going to keep them more valuable. And what I would say is there's going to be some moment, I think, where the value is going to crash out or level out or something like that. Because ultimately someone's going to say, well, it doesn't have a use, and the version that has a use is probably going to be backed by the EU or the US or China or something like that.
Yeah.
And suddenly, you'll just see this morph, like the value could really collapse because, like as soon as people no longer have faith that the value goes up, they're going to sell out.
Yeah.
And then it's going to fall off. And at the end of the day, it's not something that people legitimately use.
Yep.
By and large. I mean, it's like you can a little bit, but I'm in tech. I ask people all the time, so do you have Bitcoin? And occasionally I get somebody who says they've got some kind of crypto. And I say, okay, well, what was the last time you bought anything with it? And they're like, never.
They just exchange it?
Yeah, they just hold it. They watch the value goes up to a point where they're comfortable, and they're happy to tell me, hey, I need a bunch of money on it. And which has led to, like in this last year, a lot of, crypto schemes.
Yes.
And
the meme coins and the grab alls, because I feel like with Bitcoin, it was honestly lightning in a bottle.
Right.
Like no one could have predicted how it just catapulted.
Yeah.
I think now everyone in their mind is thinking, well, how could I find the next Bitcoin and invest $5 and become a millionaire?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's it. The question that rattles around my head with it is, in a time when I'm already using an Apple Pay, and Google Pay, to digitally transfer, like I do nearly all my transactions that way, and as demographics go younger, it's even more and more. Funny story. I was helping a young friend of mine move recently, and he's in his 20s, and he'd never really done a move before. We had movers.
Yeah.
And so, being someone from a different generation, as the moves were wrapping up, I said, okay, do you have cash at hand for tips? And he's like, why would you do that? I said, oh, these crews, man, they always want tips. I mean, it's like, you're buying them beer, you're buying them lunch. And so, and he looked at me like, I never carry cash. And so so the guy, what was hilarious was I'm getting ready to peel off, some money for the crew. The crew's like, well, we take Zelle. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of the interesting handoff. So we're already living in a society where, we can conduct our financial transactions, essentially all digitally.
Yep.
So I have to, the question I always go back to is, okay, so if that's the case, even a government-backed crypto, what does it give me?
Right.
What does it give me that having my accounts in a bank? And
good point.
And some folks will say, well, you can do it without a bank. And I'm like, well, why would I want to do it? All my funds are here. So what I've got an interface, I got a program. They're already good at it.
Yeah.
And so, I think it can go either way. And obviously I'm kind of respectful. I've got a demographic that remembers writing freaking paper checks.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a question that if you want to have the adoption curve for crypto move from where it is right now, where it's kind of living over here in the early adopter bit, and by conventional wisdom, you want to have a technology take, you've really got to capture, all those folks up to through the early adopters.
Yep.
And that's a lot of people. And to get it there, you're gonna have to answer the question of what does it give you legitimately that I don't already have?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the answer of yes, but you're transferring funds without government or bank interference. I don't think people care.
No.
And I think a lot of people go, I'm not sure that's a benefit.
Right.
I may invest in it to make some money, but I'm not sure I'm actually going to use it.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I think if I was somebody who was like behind crypto trying to make it become mainstream, I would do everything I could to move the crypto ATMs out of skeezy locations.
Yeah, so it's around the corner or something, and you're like, I would never go. No.
Yeah. It's like the by and large, when I see a machine that says crypto, it's in a vape shop.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, you gotta, you can't have it there. So if ever the only place you see a crypto machine, you're not building it like this is finance. It's like there's nothing wrong with vape, but it's like this is finance. If you want finance and trust to go mainstream, it's got to feel that way. And I've liked how Bitcoin had some recent ad campaigns around the time of the Super Bowl that were very like professional, generated trust, generated a sense that this is something more than just something that's living on the edges.
Yeah.
You know, and you certainly gotta lose all the dark web kind of stuff associated with it. And so it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's like, I couldn't even begin to tell you where it's going to land. But like with most really, really new technologies, you know, if it finds its unique use case, it'll go nuts.
Yeah.
And a parallel for that, I mean, it's beyond the Napster parallel. You know, I remember in the late 90s, you know, as internet was just starting to kick in, people were kind of excited about it. We're like, oh yeah, you can go to the internet, you can talk to people and you can do stuff. This is kind of neat. Yeah. What kicked it over was online retail.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when someone said, now here's the use case. You can do your retail here. You can, you know, you go to a portal and you can shop. You can go to Amazon. You can go ahead and, you know, rent your movies, those kind of things.
And it will come to you. Yeah.
Once that unique, and it was like, whoa, I never thought of that. Once it hit that, then suddenly that technology blew up. I think crypto is going to be exactly the same way. You've got to find a use for it where people go, oh yeah, that actually makes my life easier.
Mm.
And if you answer that, you know, in a way that it attracts not just the evangelists and the early, you know, and the early adopters, but you get like the true, it's right there on the edge. Someone you know is using it, and get to that space of adoption curve, then you got something.
Cool. Tech Tangents is sponsored by the University of Advancing Technology, Arizona's top tech-focused private university. With degrees like robotics, cybersecurity, and IT, UAT has it going on. Learn more at uat.edu.